The swampy land of Point Lookout, Maryland isn't a place to travel to if you're looking to make friends. The distance between the island and the once sprawling capital empire of DC kept the radiation's grasp at bay for quite a while, but that didn't stop the tribals from making haste to abandon the seaside town. The Potomac River was where it started, and it didn't take long at all for the radiation to reach the island and bleed through the veins of the marshy soil. The few residents that stayed suffered a fate worse than death, turning into highly deformed cannibalistic monsters. Now the island lies condemned, inhospitable, and haunted by the violent history of a city that refuses to die. The Ark and Dove Cathedral got its inspiration from an actual church located in northern Maryland. It provides you with a taste of the ritualistic flavor you will be dealing with on the island. Some of the tribals congregate here to worship what they perceive to be a higher power, aching to elevate their minds to a more sophisticated plane of existence. You'll catch them jauntily swaying their bodies in the center of the church as though hypnotized or entranced by something. Each tribal has borne a scar on the crown of their heads as the result of an amateur lobotomy-like surgery. Travel around to the back of the cathedral behind the walls, and you'll find a fleshy pile of gore and brain matter. It makes you wonder how many of these surgeries went downhill when you realize the unusually large number of gravestones in their resting grounds. The Turtledove detention camp is where Chinese soldiers were imprisoned and oppressed during the war. Looking to be in a disabled state beyond renovation, the camp reeks of violence and abandonment. Manifested in the center of the camp is a pool of radioactive chemicals with a number of ghouls basking in its glow. The guards would take turns having a field day interrogating their subjects with whatever tools or sharp objects they could find in the room. Poke around in the terminals in the administration building, and you'll find disturbing, almost downright sickening anecdotes of the torturous conditions lived through by the prisoners. If you want more evidence of the camp's dark past, head down to the basement of the administration building to find a morgue where the bodies of the prisoners are stored after the guards were done with their interrogation. An unwelcome traveler expects to be met with hostility, but that holds especially true when passing through the ritual site. If you've accepted the Dark Heart of Blackhall quest from the man in Blackhall Manor, this will likely be your first visit. The local variety of swamp folk will carry their guests down into a hidden room where they will be sacrificed in the thick of demonic practice and worship. A dark tome lies soaked in a vessel of blood at the foot of the pedestal in front of the table. Removing the book from its vessel will show just how defensive the locals can get when you go poking around in their chambers. Fighting your way out will pose enough of a challenge, but of course venturing into the chambers doesn't help with an already diminished sense of safety. Point Lookout's prime mining site used to be lavish with resources and ore, but the mine's integrity dwindled massively even before the city's abandonment. The winding tunnels tell the story of a delusional man that went by the name of Herzog. Explosives were set off during the war after Herzog's so-called faithful workers rose to accept their poor conditions and demanded extra privilege. They stopped working for days. They sparked a flame in the old man's heart, but not one they were anticipating. Responding to the disobedience in the only way the poor old man knew how, he blew up the mine with tons of dynamite, trapping or killing all the workers inside. Now you'll only find one kid that uses the mine as a shelter, and the late Mr. Herzog, having hung himself in the darkness of black damp shaft. Anyone familiar with Point Lookout shouldn't be taken by surprise at this location topping the list. After the deceptively kind tribals of the cathedral offer you their hospitality, you are sent on a quest of enlightenment. Feed off the seeds of the Mother Punga fruit, and your mind will achieve a higher plane of knowledge and existence. Or so says the sacred priests of the island. The pollen from the seeds causes you to vividly hallucinate, resulting in your character living out some of the most traumatic experiences of their early childhood. The prime example being Catherine's death as the result of your birth. Hence all the party favors around the deathbed. Imitation bobbleheads play and mock your worst fears and insecurities, yet they ironically guide you towards the end of the hallucination. Little do you know, a deal was cut between the ferryman and the local nutcases in the cathedral. This is even displayed in the actual hallucination itself, as the ferryman sneaks in while you're unconscious, takes a bone saw to the crown of your head, retrieves part of your brain, and clumsily stitches the wound back up. There are visuals in the hallucination to represent this. For a few brief moments, your world is quite literally turned upside down. Walking through crowds of haunting apparitions, subtle references to the outside world, and walking through trails of dead bodies. Bodies of people you once knew and fought beside, now lifeless at your feet. It all ends when you enter a dialogue sequence with Mr. Burke, resulting in a rather explosive finale.